In about 1 minute, we are live. Yes, we are live on Facebook. Sakiyyah and Aniiya, you are muted, but I'm going to go ahead and do my introduction. Hello, world. I am Dr. Tamia Austin. I have the privilege of being the executive director of the As One Foundation. Our mission at the As One Foundation is to empower families globally, delivering life-saving sickle cell education. And this mission, this organization is in existence because of our founder learning that he had sickle cell trait upon entering college, back when he and his identical twin brother were freshmen at Florida State University. They would go on and play football as true freshmen. And in that season, one game shy of a perfect undefeated season, and would come back in the spring, very raring to go, wanting to show their coaches that they were ready and strong and they were willing to go as hard as they could. And unfortunately, February 26, 2001, Devon Darling, the identical twin of DeVar Darling, suffered what we term as exertional sickling, where he was deprived of oxygen, he was deprived of water as a form of, toughening up. And that is the danger zone for some of our sickle cell trait warriors. But DeVar, in that same practice, did live and went on to fulfill their shared dream to make it to the National Football League. He played 8 successful and rigorous years in the NFL, and upon his NFL career, he established the As One Foundation in memory of his brother, to make sure that his memory would never be lost or forgotten. And since that time, we've adopted a mission to raise awareness about sickle cell trait, and most recently, we are inclusive of sickle cell and sickle cell trait in our mission to educate the world. So here we are. We are in the 13th, 14th year of the As One Foundation. We are in the 20th year of celebrating Devon's life, as he died on February 26, 2001. So last month, we rounded out 20 years since Devon has been gone. And one of our biggest celebrations is what we call the Darling Dash, which is it started as a 5K, but as of 2020 and COVID-19, we moved to make the Darling Dash a virtual event. So we have extended the Darling Dash through March of this year. So we've got a few more days left in the month, but we wanted to take use of our theme this month, which is education, and to let you know what we do with the Darling Dash proceeds. Yes, you register for the Darling Dash. Yes, you get your honey bun medal, because the honey bun medal is in commemoration of Devon's favorite snack. He loved the honey bun. So for the 20th anniversary of his passing, you get, for $40, you get a honey bun medal. But the proceeds, what we do with that money, we educate. We educate across the spectrum of sickle cell, and we have some great, as they're called, a powerhouse, a mother and daughter combo that will talk to us today about their journey and how they educate. And we love to link up with people like them to show all of the different, vibrant, wonderful sides of sickle cell as we spread this message, empowering families globally. So with that, I am going to pass the mic, as they say. Sakiyyah, you're still muted. So, yep, and take it away. Tell everyone who you are.
So hi, everyone. My name is Sakiyyah Burwell-Darden, and I work with the Sickle Cell Association of New Jersey. I'm a community health worker. I'm a hemoglobinopathies educator, and I'm also a master trainer in chronic disease self-management as well as diabetes self-management. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a wife, and I'm an individual who lives with sickle cell. And so that is where my passion for educating people about sickle cell disease as well as sickle cell trait comes into play, because it's very personal for me. And as a mom, my kids don't have sickle cell disease, but they have the trait. But it is become, I'm very passionate about educating them, because they will then grow up to be adults, and they need to know their status. They need to know all that when they're starting to plan their families and starting to just plan out life. So it became very important to me to educate my children who have sickle cell trait. And so that when I'm going out often, people will always see me with my daughter. And so with Aniiya Darden, and she is always referred to her as my little advocate, because because I have to, but my work schedule, I have to always have her with me, especially now with COVID and everything, and we're doing the virtual learning and everything. She's in some of, she pops in some of my workshops that I'm doing. So she hears a lot and she learns a lot. And what she does with it is she takes it on her level of understanding, and she explains it out to her friends and people she comes into contact on a daily basis. And she has taken us we used to have different health events. She would wear my little sickle sign for me. She would help me pass out information. And I think it was more of me asking her, come on, help mommy. But now it's more of now she enjoys doing it. She likes learning about sickle cell and how to go further to help people as well. So.
Oh, I just love it. I cannot wait to meet Aniiya. And are you ready to tell us, introduce yourself to the world?
Sure. Hi guys, my name's Aniiya. I do live with sickle cell trait. It was passed down from my mom. And yeah, I'm basically her little advocate. I like to help with sickle cell. When I first learned about sickle cell, I didn't really understand. I'm like, so basically they're little cells. Like, you're telling me there's little cells like this that are basically like this, that could turn into this. Basically, this is supposed to be a crescent moon, but they could turn into this. I was like, what? What is this?
Yes.
But then I started to listen more, and then I finally got a bigger understanding. So, yeah.
Yeah. So with her, the only thing she understood was from a young age, mommy would get sick. Mommy would spend time away from her in the hospital.
I get to visit sometimes.
And she would get to visit. She would come, the hospital will allow her to come up. Well, not right now, but the hospital will allow her to come up. And when she would come up, at the time when they were allowed, she would come up and she would take care of mommy. She would lotion my skin. Yeah. She would ask the nurses, how's my mom doing? What she knew to ask about certain things. Okay. How's her pain? What was her pain level? And so from being around it, she learned a lot about sickle cell.
I think this is really great, and I'm so glad to have the both of you sharing, because this is not uncommon that there is as we say, a warrior and a trait warrior in the same household. Sometimes that's the caregiver that has the trait, and then the child, because both parents had the trait, made the child with disease. So it's, it comes in different, patterns, I guess, or levels. But when we're talking about sickle cell, it is absolutely the position of the As One Foundation that how is any education comprehensive about sickle cell if you're not also including education about sickle cell trait? It in fact is not. There's no way that the education is comprehensive. I see you shaking your head. So tell me why you're shaking your head. Why do you agree?
I agree, because you must know your trait status, because it all begins with, okay, so I'm trying to see if I can explain this in a better way.
Take your time, yeah.
My mom has the trait and my dad has the trait. Now, had they have known their trait status before they had me, I mean, fortunately, I don't know what they would have decided, but right. They would have had a better understanding of what to expect having me. I would have hoped they would have still chose to have me.
Right, right.
But at least when you have that knowledge of that trait of what your trait status is, you have that that you're informed. You can make informed
Yes.
decisions. You can decide, well, you know what? So listen, I have trait, my husband has trait. Let's go to a genetic counselor. Let's see our
There you
chances
go.
of having a child with sickle cell or thalassemia or other genetic disorders. Like we can't just leave out that, but just having that information and understanding of what your genetic makeup is very important. I'm educating my children. I'm hoping, I know that they're listening.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's like when they go out to go meet their mate and they decide they want to start their family planning, I'm hoping that conversation comes up. Okay, well, I already know I have trait. Let's look, if we're getting serious,
Yeah.
we're planning a future together, we're going to need this information to go forward.
You raise one of the most important points, which is just information. I have met tons of parents who are on opposite sides of that discussion. Some of them express, I would have done something different, and others express, I believe in fate and I wouldn't change a thing. But both of them, both sides still agree on information and knowing and not being hit like with the Mack truck with like, oh my God, this brand new baby now has a hemoglobinopathy that could do this, that could do that, or whatever. So knowing ahead of time, understanding, that this is not something you develop, you pass it down to your children and they could pass it down if the right circumstances are in place. That's right in line with our theme this month, as well as what we do year round at the As One Foundation is not take for granted what is known and not known about sickle cell, especially when the numbers are about 90 to 100,000 with sickle cell in the US, but about 4 million with the trait. And a lot of them don't know because, the consideration, the myth is that this is only something that affects African Americans, which is wrong. It affects people of African descent, but people that look white, that identify as Caucasian,
So you're absolutely right. It affects Asians, it affects Greeks, Turks, there's so many other cultures.
Italian, Mediterranean, absolutely, yeah.
Yes, and there's so many different genotypes of sickle cell. I mean, you can't just put your finger on one. And it's like, as a hemoglobinopathy educator, like when I go back to get my research, I'm always learning about new. Like, well, not new. Well, I guess it's like, okay, we didn't have knowledge about this before, but now, okay, there's an N, there's S, there's the thalassemia, there's just so many.
And oh God, I'm drawing a blank now, but they're hundreds. Yeah, they're hundreds. Yeah,
there's so many, and so like I think for me, like, and then there's also the myth that when it comes to these different traits and when they come together to form the disease, that there's the myth is that, oh, SS is at the top and it's the worst. And so like SC, like I was told several times, like, okay, why are you in the hospital? You shouldn't be experiencing pain. You have SC, you don't have SS, you shouldn't be in so much pain. Or I have a friend that has thalassemia, and so they're like, oh, well, you shouldn't be experiencing pain. You have thalassemia. So there's so many misconceptions about sickle cell as well as trait that they don't think to stop and say, like, okay, even with, like you were talking about the young man that the foundation is built around. There's so many things that come into play when you talk about a person having a disease or even a trait. There's environmental there's environmental factors. There's social factors. Yeah. There's so many things that come into play. So just because you have this form of sickle cell, or you have this trait or that trait, doesn't mean that you're going to go according to some textbook diagnosis of how your body's supposed to react to that.
Oh, I just love it. I could just sit here and talk to you all day. Last weekend, we got to participate in a webinar that was broadcast out of Zambia and London, the UK. And it's a young lady who has sickle cell trait, but she has had many many adverse effects to her health that mimic disease. But, you know, she's also dealt with the non-belief, you know, the undermining and all of that. But one thing that came up that doesn't come up a lot, it is a lot out there in the world, but it doesn't come up a lot on the sickle cell trait conversation, and that is about mental health. You know, and you when you talk about the environment, I mean, the situation that Devard and Devon were in, they were born in Nassau, Bahamas, and knowing anything about the middle class of the Nassau Bahamian is that they all affiliate with some National Football League team. So these boys grew up watching the Miami Dolphins. That was their father's favorite team. And then they had a breakdown in their family. Parents were divorced. So they moved to Houston when the boys were very young enough to attend middle school and high school in the Houston, Fort Bend Independent School District. But they were also in tune with each other so much that they started writing out their dreams and goals as little boys. And one of their major goals was to go to college together as identical twins. They wanted to go to college together. They wanted to play college football together, and they wanted to play NFL football together. And to get nationally recruited, and one of their favorite schools, Florida State, bring both of them in on full scholarship. And then they played their first as true freshmen, which is not ordinary. You know, you have to be really good to play as true freshmen and almost win the national championship. So the way football goes is the national championship is sometime in January. So they have a month break and they come back February for these off-season workouts, and they're ready to prove themselves. They're ready to show, I'm going to go hard. I don't need water. Water is associated with weakness. Here, the environment, the mental, you know, all of that, and that machismo that these young athletes, especially these males are, you know, they take on themselves. They do protein spills, like they want to work so hard that they vomit. And of course, when you vomit, that's automatic dehydration. And then they have a blood disorder that needs hydration. They need recovery. They need to work up to exertion. So you raise a great point about the environment and all of the things that are not talked about enough in the doctor's offices. And, you know, let's whittle back, because let's talk about when you found out. And then how were you reconciled to the birth of your children? Because I'm leading up to when you got the letter in the mail. Did you get a letter in the mail? You know, was it clear? So tell us that experience.
So you talking about my birth or my children's birth?
Both. I would like to start with your birth, but yes.
Okay. There's so many holes in the reason why I was not diagnosed at birth, and I probably will never get the full story of why I wasn't. I was diagnosed at 16 years old.
Wow.
Although I was in and out of the hospital and I was being treated, but I never had a name. It just was like, oh, she's always dehydrated. Oh, she has these pains. Oh, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and it wasn't until I believe my mom took me to a different hospital outside of our area that they said, well, does this young lady have sickle cell? Or that's when it all came in, and then they started running all these different tests, and then they came back that I had sickle cell, and then they told me the type, the genotype, and everything. So I don't really know what happened as far as why my mom didn't get the proper information. I don't know what happened with all that. I questioned her and I asked, but she doesn't really have that information. And I think what it is my mom comes from an era where the doctor spoke, you got that white coat syndrome. So
yes.
Even if you had questions, you were afraid to ask questions because they were talking to you on such a level, and it's like, okay, I don't want to appear stupid. Right. So I don't want to ask questions. So I'm just going to leave it alone, let him say what he has to say, and just have it at that. So I think it was that was probably where everything went the wrong way. She didn't know to ask questions, or she just felt like, okay, if it was of such urgency, the doctor would have,
right.
You know, and then not to give away my age or anything, but like it was in that I was born around that time when newborn screening was just being put
Okay.
into practice. And so I was probably one of the few people that slipped between the
Sure.
cracks of the newborn screening. Just probably.
Yeah.
And then as for my kids, when I had my children, I already knew that I had sickle cell at that point. And from 16, once I got diagnosed, it was like, okay, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It was like, oh, it's not all in my mind. I'm not imagining all these things. I have a name for what I have. I can call it by name. I know what it is. I can research it. And now I was taking the steps to make sure that I would remain healthy. So like now you know what it is. And now it's like, okay, how do I fight this?
Yeah.
So that's when that went off in my head. And so when I decided, when I was of family planning age, I knew I had sickle cell. So then I was like, okay, I need to know if my partner is gonna have sickle cell as well, because doing the research, you find that out. So we went to genetic counseling and everything. And so I knew the chances of my kids having sickle cell, they would have trait.
Yeah.
Because my husband has normal hemoglobin and I have S and a C. I can only give off an S or a C, and he would only give off his normal. So they would have the trait.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a comfort in knowing that my children would not develop the disease. But then it kind of another light bulb went off in my head. I said, okay, they might not have disease, but what happens when they have kids? Like, so then it all went into, okay, now I got to educate them. They need to know that they could possibly have children with sickle cell if they, their mate doesn't know their trait status. And, so that's when that all went into play,
So you were informed as a parent, so you made an informed decision. How has their health been? Have you noticed any adverse effects from the sickle cell? The trait that they have.
So I thought she wanted to say something. So I have all three of my children are very active, and they're not athlete. Well, one is an athlete. He's a cross country runner, and then my oldest, and then my daughter here. They're both dancers, and they're like very avid dancers. So it burns off a lot of energy. They know I'm constantly saying, "Where's your water jug? Where's your water?
Yes.
Are you too tired? You need to take a break. You're overdoing it." Like, so I'm constantly on them about that. But what I've noticed about their health is, so I know for certain that my middle son, the one that does cross country, he has S trait. Not quite sure what the two oldest, we had to do, he did some blood work, and that's how we found out from him. I believe my oldest and my daughter has the C trait.
Okay.
So, but with my middle son, I don't know if it's because he's so active with cross country, he complains of joint aches constantly. Every once in a while, she'll complain about joint pains, but more my middle son, he will complain about joint pains. And so I'm constantly talking to his coaches and telling them, like, listen, are you making sure my son getting enough water? And when I feel like she said they're scared of me.
Good. That's a good thing, Aniiya. That's a good thing. Trust me. It's a really
and with her dance coach, I was like that. I was like, even though all the girls were there, like I didn't know their trait status. I was like, oh, these babies need water.
Yes.
Let's get them some water. Let's get them a little break. So I'm constantly on top of that. And so with everything I fill out for their paperwork, I'm like, I put it on there. My children have sickle cell trait, not the disease. And then I highlight it and I said, they need breaks and they may need water, So I kind of like highlight that on all their paperwork when they have to do physical activities. They think it's kind of annoying, but I want to make sure. She's gonna. But I want to make sure like that they know, like people tend to think that trait is there's absolutely no worry, but there anytime I think when you have something like trait, you still have to be you have to make sure you're hydrated, you have to make sure you're getting a proper rest. And people seem to think like, oh, you're just gonna fly by easy, but it's like I was just saying, like it's different factors that come into play. Like if you know you're gonna work out hard, or you know you're an athlete and you want to push yourself, you have to listen to your body. You have to, you know, make sure you're taking certain precautions when it comes to that. And I don't think people know that when it comes to trade.
And
And
because if you don't listen to your body when it says I need water, and you just keep doing what you're trying to do, you could end up dying or ending up in the hospital and dying. But
That is
still,
yeah, that is so. I'm so glad that Aniiya knows that.
I put it to her. I'm sorry she put it so blunt, but that's how I put it to them. I'm like, you don't want this to happen.
Yeah.
And so like you must take these steps. Like, where's your water bottle? Make sure you have it with you, and that you're taking in enough water each day. So I mean, but
This guy right here, Aniiya, Aniiya, you see this guy right here on my screen? That's Devon, and that's exactly what happened to him. It doesn't have to happen. Sickle cell trait is not a death. Sickle cell disease is not a death sentence, especially with these new medicines that are developed and new therapies, but it's still a personal thing. Like you said, you have to know your body, you have to listen to your body. And what we've done at the As One Foundation is we've compiled that into 3 little lessons, because we say that, why, you know, we ask, why do you water your plants, Aniiya? Why does somebody water their plants?
Wants to water their plants because if they don't, they shrivel up, and then there's no more
Shrivel
plant.
up and die. Why would someone give their pet water?
Because then they could die.
Yeah, they'll start kind of getting a little dizzy and lethargic, and
they could get sued. The person could get sued if they don't.
oh, and well, there you go too. But
what's the legal side of it?
yeah, I got it. And what about this one? Why do we put water in our cars?
So they don't break down.
They don't break down sometimes. But see, old school car, if you don't put enough water in your car, it could run hot, and that could just totally tear up your engine. So we give water to our plants, we give water to our pets, we put water in our cars. But can you guess how much water a human needs to drink? I bet you already know because your mom is good. How much water does a human need?
I think I remember.
What is it? In order to avoid dehydration?
I think it's like 5 glasses a day or something. I don't know.
Well, what'd you say?
But
8.
8 glasses. Well, it's even more specified.
I drink 5. That's
it's
why.
customized, because I would wager that mom probably needs to drink more water than you. And maybe when you grow bigger and taller and are more active, you could eventually need more water than mom. So how we do that, we customize that by saying every human has to drink half their body weight in ounces of water per day. So Aniiya, do you know how much you weigh?
Do you know how much you weigh?
Like
I know how much you weigh. You wish you were, sister. She's like at 70 now.
I only know I'm 5 feet.
Okay, so you weigh 70 pounds. So approximately, what's half of 70 pounds?
No, 35.
Oh, I'm just taking you to school right now.
Yeah, she's like, wait, we got to do math.
So half your body weight in ounces. So we know that your weight is 70. So half of 70 is 35. So how many ounces of water should you be drinking a day?
Do I really have to drink 35?
Yes, you do. Yes, I love that response.
I always think I'm making stuff up. I'm like, did you have water? Did you have water?
No, and as you grow bigger, your water consumption has to increase. So if a person weighs 200 pounds, they should be drinking how much?
90?
100 ounces of water a day.
I'm done.
But that's what keeps you, because sometimes being dehydrated, we don't even feel it yet. But some people believe that by the time you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
You're already, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to You want to avoid dehydration, especially with sickle cell, because your cells, like you made that circle, your cells need water to stay round and nice and plump. That dehydration can make them shrivel up and do that. So that you don't want to get to dehydration. So you avoid dehydration by drinking your 35 ounces right now. And as you grow, you got to drink more. So I'll just say this. For dancers, I heard you say you're a dancer, people in marching band, and athletes, or even people that do laborious work. We tell them to warm up, drink up, and rest up. So you know how your mom is saying they need breaks, they need water. That is the rest up part. That's the recovery part. You need to be able to do your exertion and then take a breather, or take a knee, or put your hands on your hips, or raise your arms above your head to, open up your lungs. But the warm up is important too. So you can't just start dancing, at full exertion without warming up. So can you give me an example? I mean, you don't have to perform it for me, but can you give me an example of what you can do to warm up?
So one thing I like to do to warm up, and I really like this one. It's like when I do a split, I do like a middle split. I just sit down on the ground, and then I go to each side.
Yes.
And then I go in the middle.
Exactly. And all of that, even though you're just sitting, you are still, your heart rate is racing, but you should not go from sitting to just all out dancing. You got to go from rest to exertion gradually. So we simplify that. We say, warm up, drink up, rest up. Warm up, drink up, rest up. And how are we drinking up? What is our hydration?
I'm talking about mine, 3 hours.
Anybody's. What do we tell them?
Half of your what?
Half of my body weight.
In ounces of water. We prefer it to be water, not necessarily soda or blue juice. So this is really great. I really appreciate the job that you're doing with your trait warriors and taking good care of yourself. I'm looking forward to us working together. I know that Aniiya is working with the SC3 kids. Tell us briefly what you're doing as an advocate for sickle cell.
Me or you?
You.
Oh. Oh. Well, something as I like to do as to be an advocate of sickle cell is to warn others about it. So I like to, like whenever, like for an example, like my mom was in the hospital, and then I think one of my friends overheard me because I had to do this assignment also. But my mom usually helps me with like big essays or assignments. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm going to need a few more weeks until she gets out of the hospital, or I don't know. And then they said, okay, we'll send it. You could just turn it in whenever you're ready. And then one of my friends were being nosy. Mm-hmm. And said, why do you need an extension on the essay? And I had to sit down and explain her everything at lunch. So I said, my mom have a disease, well, not a disease, a disorder that her blood cells. So let's say this is her blood cells. When this is her when she's like okay and she's not in the hospital. This is her cells when she's in the hospital. And then she's like, what? I'm gonna tell you, it took 30 minutes for her to understand.
Aniiya, but do you know that there's some people that go their whole lives and don't have anyone to explain that to them? So you did a good thing, and guess what? You might have to explain it again, and you might have to explain it again. I mean, I talk about sickle cell. I say the same speech over and over again because, first of all, there's 4 million people in the United States that have trait, and a lot of them don't know it. Like your mom, she was 16 before she knew what was going on with her. And there are, it's a lot of people like that. So me and you and your mom, we're probably going to have to continue to say this stuff over and over and over again. And I really appreciate you guys joining me here on our Warrior Talk Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday talking about the As One Foundation, what our theme is, and bringing attention to people in the community like you that are helping us, knock down these walls and share this message. Is there anything that you would like to share? Is there a website or any information that you'd like to share, and we can put it in the comments?
Oh,
Well, me, my mom, and my brother, see, this is our picture on the back. So we made a book for little warriors, and it is called The Diary of a Little Warrior. This is my mom's story in, well, picture form and very colorful, let's say, cartoonish form.
so okay, so the idea behind the book, she was asking me a lot of about sickle cell. So I just had this idea. I was like, oh, I sit down and I wrote like a little poem or story so that I could.
Yeah, it's like
because she remembers. Yes, she remembers stuff when I tell her in that type of way.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just grew into a book over the pandemic, because my son said, oh, he likes it, and he said, oh, I'm gonna draw some pictures to go with it. And so and so then we had no idea it was going to turn into like a whole book project. It was just, and then I said, oh, well, there's Kindle publishing. I said, we could just self-publish it right here. And then so we self-published it. She wrote the foreword for me, and then my son did the illustrations.
I gotta get me a copy. So let's tell everybody.
The book is on Amazon.
Okay, good. It's on Amazon.
It's A Diary of a Little Warrior. I'm gonna
Diary of a Little Warrior. Okay.
This is my mom as a little girl, but
no,
it's based off of me.
She's saying that's me. The image is drawn off of her. My son drew the image off of her.
Okay, I love it. And we can find it on Amazon. My Little Warrior Story. Is that what it is? The Diary
of a Little Warrior.
Diary. We got to put that in the comments and link to Amazon. I cannot wait to have my own copy. I have a warrior, a trait warrior nephew, and I buy all the sickle cell books just so he can have all the perspectives. Good job. You guys produced that you made something good out of 2020, huh?
Yeah, it was during like the height of the pandemic. And I was like, okay, I wasn't able to do my workshops like I wanted to. I couldn't get this was before they started, really getting really busy with Zoom and doing workshops over Zoom. Yeah. So I was like, I can't, and I missed educating people about sickle cell.
So she put it in book form.
I love it. She's your best PR. I see it right there.
Yeah, and the best thing about it is when I have to explain, I want to take this to school with me when school reopens.
Yes.
I can educate my friends more about sickle cell. So whenever they so they can more understand about what I go through when my mom's in the hospital and what she goes through the hospital.
Well,
so this is a good way to explain to my friends what happens during hard times.
I'm going to go on Amazon today. Is it so Amazon's going to publish it, right? So Amazon is going to send it to me. I'm going to send it back to you guys so I can get an autographed copy. And then you can send it back to me because I would like your autograph. Thank you very much. And one day when the world fully opens up, I cannot wait to meet you guys in person because this is super. I love it. You are two beautiful people. I'm sure a full, beautiful family. I'll just say that in order to reach the As One Foundation, find out about anything we're doing, please visit our website, asonefoundation.org. That's all spelled out. By the way, do you have a website also?
No, I don't have a website.
Okay, well, we'll just put the Amazon information. Yes. So asonefoundation.org, we have a number of great things coming up. We do believe in education, and we have a CEU event, a CME event, where we're educating healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, physician's assistants, athletic trainers, April 22nd, from 9:45 to 4:30 p.m. We will be sharing the registration link. It's on Eventbrite right now, but it's actually going to be hosted on Run the World, which is a virtual event platform. But we're really excited. It's a 5-credit event. So if you and anybody listening, if you want to share it with your providers, so they can, and it's all about trait. It's all about trait. We have research. What we've done is we've combined expertise and experience. So each topic has a patient as well as an MD or PhD, tag team. So that's coming up next month. We still are in the throes of our Darling Dash fundraiser. $40 is a gift that you will receive the Honeybud Medal in return, and you'll be supporting our ability to continue to do education globally to help save the lives of family. As you can see, all of our work is about touching hearts, giving hope, and saving lives. So I'm going to close. I'm going to say thank you so much. I look forward to having you guys back again. And I definitely look forward to seeing you all in person and getting my autographed copy of my book. Thank you so much. I thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week on Warrior Talk Tuesday.